Hello, welcome to today's devotional. It's Proverbs chapter 8, verse 18 today that we're looking at. And so we're just going to go right into it. Want to remind anybody, in case this is just your first video, the context of this verse. It's in the book of Proverbs in the Old Testament of the Bible. It's known as the book of wisdom, and it's the entire book is talking about wisdom. In the 8th chapter, wisdom is personified and presented as a as if wisdom was a woman calling to us and saying the importance of being in this relationship with her, and the relationship of having wisdom is the idea. And so each of the verses are her speaking about that value of that. So in verse 18 she says, riches and honor are with me, enduring wealth and righteousness. Once again, being in relationship with wisdom, having wisdom, God's wisdom. Riches and honor are with her, and enduring wealth and righteousness is part of that relationship. So what does that mean when we talk about this? The word righteous, the word riches and wealth, those words that are in there are appealing. Who doesn't want to have wealth? Who doesn't want to have riches? It sounds like, oh, that'd be something nice to have. But the important thing, of course, is to remember the teaching of the whole book. And this isn't saying, so here's what it's not saying. It's not saying, if you learn God's wisdom, you'll be a millionaire, a billionaire, you'll be the richest guy in the land. It's not saying you'll have a big bank account. That's not the point. But neither is it saying that riches have nothing to do with that. They're connected. Sure they are. But the thing about wisdom is how we relearn what really is wealth, what really is value. And so in this case, you see this coupling: riches and honor are with me, enduring wealth and righteousness are with me. And there's a connection there, right? What makes something valuable in your life? Just think about anybody's life in the world. What makes something valuable? A thing is not valuable just because it exists. If there's nobody to value it, then it isn't really, it doesn't have value. It just exists. And if there is somebody to value it, then it doesn't matter what it is. The value will be placed on it by the person who values it, and so it'll be worth something. For one person, they would rather have $100 than a particular piece of jewelry. For another person, they'd rather have the jewelry than the $100. And so an exchange happens, and that's how business works. The value is placed on it by the people who hold a relationship with it. And so the thing about wisdom is that it teaches us how to value the right things. We can value all sorts of things that are actually harmful to us, or that really have no good in them, but we can still value them, and we shouldn't. Or there's other things that we really should value and we don't. We take them for granted, or we don't even think of how valuable they are. And wisdom teaches us, as we learn God's wisdom, it teaches us which things should we value and which things should we not. It teaches you what things to want, and that's what value is. I'm actually there. Sorry about that. Not sure what that's about, but we'll hope it stays on, at least on my screen, and so I get disconnected. I'm going to continue, hoping that you're there. Anyways, if we want something, that becomes the value, and wisdom teaches us: should you want that? And there's all kinds of examples of people valuing the absolute wrong things, or reversing the value system. Like, who would ever give up their child for something? A child should be very, very high on your value list. And yet we see in history many times humans have given up their children for some other such a trivial thing, or, as an example. It just simply teaches us, God's wisdom simply teaches us that was a weird sentence, but what's worth putting worth on, what's worth wanting. And that's the thing. So wisdom here, it says, riches and honor are with me. And so this is the idea: is I'll give you real riches that's connected to honor, enduring wealth and righteousness. And so it's connected to that. And this idea of enduring wealth, something that lives on. So Jesus once talked about this, about how, don't build up treasures for yourself on earth, he said, where moth and rust destroy, or where thieves break in and steal. This idea of the wealth that the world often turns to Don't make that your big treasure. Instead, he says, make your treasure with God. Make, seek first the kingdom of heaven and his righteousness, God's righteousness. And then these other lesser things, well, God will add things to you. If you worry about, what am I going to wear? What am I going to eat? What's my house going to be like? And it's like, no, put your heart in that place of valuing the godly things, the righteous things, those wealthy things, rather than the wealthy things the world looks at. And it's just another example where the Bible tells us to sort of rewrite our mind when it comes to what is wealth, what is riches. And that's what this verse is kind of reminding us about. Now, understand that link is part of the wealth that wisdom teaches us, the link of righteousness and honor, and how it's worth so much. Now, a person might say, yeah, but is there any physical wealth to wisdom? Is there any like stuff that will benefit me in that way at all? And the answer is yes, of course it will. Actually, if a person learns God's wisdom, they actually will find that it does tend to lead into benefit in the physical world as well. The benefit of maybe having a bit better of a bank account because you learn God's wisdom and how to handle your money, or having better assets in the world because you receive God's blessing for having honored him in the right ways. And so there's a physical aspect to it for sure, but it's not a decadent kind of wealth that the world teaches. God's wisdom won't lead you into that kind of like, I have so much stuff that I can just sit back and be a sloth for the rest of my life. God's not going to lead you into that kind of wealth. Not a decadent kind of wealth, but his wisdom does also tend to bless us in a physical way as well, which is wonderful. Um, but the key to it is how it teaches us what things to value. And when we value all the right things, then that will actually put us in a position to succeed in even the physical things of life. And so that's good. So to sort of wrap up this idea, a fool, biblically speaking, a fool can fall into money and fall out of it just as quick. But a wise man gains a wealth that can never be taken. It's enduring. It can never be taken, whether or not he has money. And that's really valuable. Knowing what wealth is one of the foundational parts of your brain. Knowing what the priority list of life should be. It's foundational part of your psyche. And wisdom from God teaches us how to organize that part of our mind so that we really know what are the things worth giving up and what are the things worth clinging to. Wealth and treasures that are full of honor and righteousness. So part of the journey of wisdom is being open to and allowing God to rewrite your table of values that are in your mind, rewrite that part of your brain so you really do value the right things. Anyway, God bless you. And, tomorrow we'll come back with verse 19, and you're going to see in verse 19 how it flows right from this thought of how this is better than gold and that is better than silver. And it just follows that thought through. You can look at it in advance as part of your own studies. But I'll see you next time. God bless.